Dear folks, well, another Sunday finds us nearly bogged down with rain. I have never seen the like, and still raining. Mud a foot deep, you have no idea. And this French mud has a tendency to stick like glue. Oh well, I see you had 3 days at home without rain, and that's encouraging to us. With Tom's threshed and Oliver's finished, it is a start, and I'm certain you will get some good weather yet. 2 weeks in all, we'll probably see a complete finish of threshing, so let's hope for the best. Mr. Chairperson, honorable judges, fellow 4-Hers, ladies and gentlemen, letters to home. I have just read you an excerpt of a letter written by my great-grandfather, George Khalil. Stationed in Normandy, France, he served in the Canadian military from 1942 to 1946. George enlisted at the age of 21 with the Medical Corps and was able to see many areas of Europe during his time overseas. Much of his time was chronicled in letters and photos sent home. When George returned to Canada, he met Stella, started his own farm in Fawcett, and had 7 children. He passed away in 2001 before I was born, so I never got the chance to meet him, but from what I have heard, he led an amazing life and left a significant impression with all those that met him. He was a community-minded person who coached sports, led the 4-H club, and continued to travel until late in life. When I was born, I was named after him, so I will always have a special connection. This past summer, I had the opportunity to travel around northern France with my parents and grandparents for 12 days. From looking at George's letters and photos to home, we were able to stop at many places that George was at. We started in Paris, where we rented a vehicle and drove up to Lavin, a small town near Vimy Ridge Memorial. This happened to be 100 years since the Canadian victory at Vimy, so there are many Canadians who were doing the exact same tour. We were able to find the name of a great uncle who was killed on Vimy Ridge. Coincidentally, his name was George as well. From there, we made our way to Normandy coast, making stops at 2 famous beaches, Dunkirk and Dieppe. We then traveled south down the coast to Juno Beach. This is the D-Day landing beach that the Canadians patriated in June 1944. The Canadians suffered heavy casualties with over 2,600 men killed that day, but they were able to push further inland than any other Allied division. We think that George crossed the beach about 4 days after D-Day. The Juno Beach Center is a place I would encourage every Canadian to visit. The next day, we went about 20 kilometers inland to visit the Bretteville Canadian War Cemetery. This was the final resting place of over 3,000 Canadian soldiers. One of those soldiers was my great-grandfather's first cousin. It gave me chills to see so many Canadian headstones for men so young, all in one place. I cannot fathom the courage and bravery they must have possessed. We visited several places in France, with the final stop being Paris. Paris is where George was able to visit while on leave in the last days of war. He took several pictures and we were able to find the exact locations. We also took his army-issued guide map of Paris from 1945. Amazingly, the subway system is almost identical now to how it was back then. Through this experience, I have gained a lot more knowledge about my heritage, my ancestors, and the man who I'm proudly named after. I am also incredibly grateful for the sacrifice our soldiers went through in order for me to live the life I currently do today. Listening to stories of war at each memorial site and walking through the dark underground tunnels gave me a better understanding of how awful living conditions would have been for each member of the military, and makes me hopeful history will not repeat itself again. A closing quote from George. The war news is brighter these past few days, especially in the Pacific areas, and Japan will be in close range of bombing now, and that will put a different phase on the war. It is beyond me how these countries can hang on as well as they do, but I can't seem to see it lasting much more than 30 days. I picked it to end on the 4th of November. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but you will know when this letter arrives. Lots of love to all, George.